So for part 2 on the database, after we design, so part 1 is we supposed to have the design on your Word document here, and after design done, it's pretty much just how to create a database with access. We can use access, and this is your part 2. But before you can really jump into this, a lot of students make really mistake, and you don't really success in doing the database design. If you really just try to pull yourself, I want to learn how to do this and do this right away. Why? Because you don't know what is the concept of the database. You just want to learn the tools. Like you don't even know how to use the hammer, but you try to play with the hammer. You may hurt yourself. You see what I mean? So like you try to drive a car right away, never learn the rules of the traffic, so you may get into accidents. Same thing. So very important to have this design done. Now we pretty much, after you have this done, you pretty much understand what you're doing. Like if you don't have this done, you don't understand what you're doing, you can watch the previous video that I record to show you how to do the database design on part 1. So part 1 is done, come to part 2, and again recommend you to get the part 1 done. So part 2 is how to create a table. This is a table. Like I create one table named customer with all the fields, and the field should belong to the title right there. Right, so and then it's ready, pretty much just enter the records. And if you've done part 1 properly, you can just prepare the record to enter. And you actually, if you have record like that, you can just copy and paste. You don't need to do manual type. So let's see if this is on access. Let me just paste this on access. Okay. Now since we're waiting for that to open, I'm going to show you. If we type, we can just type to, right, Morgan Freeman, and the second is Kobe Bryant, right? So like I said, the ID field you don't have to worry, it's going to be auto increment, so you just worry about first name and last name. Now if you have your data on Excel, let's say for example I have this on Excel. Let's see if I can just copy like that. You see that it's going to insert for you, right? Yeah, but it's not easy or friendly like the one in when you use Excel before, because this is Access, this is not Excel. So it's just sometimes it will do like the whole thing if you really highlight and put it bright. Otherwise it's going to be one by one like that. Okay, all right, so now we have the data and the table is done. Right, since you have the design, it's very easy now. Like I said, if you don't have the design right, after you create this thing, it's not going to work. And then you have to pretty much just trash your database and start over again. When I say it's not going to work, it's not about creating table, it's about part 3 and 4, do the queries, do the forms, relationships. Because the designer make a relationship for you, that's why this is perfect. Now it's going to create another table. Let me show you again how to create a new table. Let me use when you create a table, you also have to think about your table too. Which one should come first? Like you should create a table with no relationship first. This one has relationships, right? depending on billing address ID. If you don't have billing address, how you going to create that table? You should have your billing address come first, right? To feed that into this table. So I should create billing address first. I mean, it doesn't matter to do this when you have an empty fields and table, but when you don't, you're going to see a lot of issues. Okay, but if you follow this step, then you're good. Let's save this table. I'm going to do billing address, and again, I like to capitalize my table name and underscore between the words. All right, so we create new table name billing address. We want to add the customer address ID. Now I'm showing you another way to create tables. You go to design view, and then we pretty much has this sheet. This is called design sheet. You just fill in the field name. Now I have billing address ID. I'm going to rename it. And then we have street address. Like by default, when you create a new table, it's also create the auto number for you as a type fields, which is good. I leave it like that. It's primary key for you. Now just add the rest. Street address, short text, right? City, also short text. State, short text. Zip, I'm going to use short text for that too, because sometimes we have dash, right, between the 5 digits number of the zip code, right? Now, data dictionary is going to come for the descriptions. Like sometimes, what is billing address ID? We don't know what it is, so we want to explain. So I might want to say to identify, right? To identify, right? Billing address or customer billing address. Street address, street number, and name, right? So just explain what are those, right? City is city name, state is state name, something like that. Like, this is why we need the data dictionary, because sometimes you abbreviate like car, year. That's easy to understand, but sometimes you do QTY, like quantity. It depends, right? Sometimes like this getting too long, you want to shorten it by cost, bill, add, something like that. You don't have to spell the whole thing. Then you just do the dictionary here to describe what it is. State name and then zip code, right? Now we're going to save this. So this is another way to create table. Then you can just click on view, and you see you can also insert your new table data here, right? Let's see if we have some data to insert. Let's try again if I can actually insert everything, but I need to select them. There you go, right? Like if you highlight them properly, you can just copy and paste them instead of typing manually, since you already have your data ready, correct? So that's, we have this table ready. Now I want to talk about something about part 2 for your data table. Like for example, we have the property sheets here. If I click on zip, we have what we call input mask. What input mask is going to do is going to mask the input to make sure that you have the right format, or the user enter the right format that I want. Like for example, zip code has the format like that. I want the user to make sure that you have to enter in that format, or phone number, or social security number, or password. I mean, the format is not required to be like that, but it's just going to show an input mask. Just like when sometimes when you sign up for something online, they just show the format that you're supposed to enter in. Like for example, I'm going to add a new address. Washington. And let's take a look at your zip here. See, when I start to enter, that is the input mask for me to just telling me that this is the format, right, to help as a guidance to the user input or the data entry. Alright, so I'm going to create another table named service table. Actually, yeah, let's start with service table first. Okay. So how to create a new table? Just create a table, right? I'm going to save this to service table. There are two ways to create a table. I showed you from design view earlier, so let's do the same thing. So we have service ID, right? I'm just going to rename it to service ID. And it's auto number by default. Now I need to have service name and a cost. So service, like you see, this is a good place where you want to do descriptions. You see, short text, that's what I want. It's so short text for service, like sometimes we don't know what's that mean. So we want to say service is going to be the maintenance done on the car. This is service for the car, right? Now the question is how to add the data type. Let's say I want to do the cost, right? And the cost, I have the definitions here. So I'm going to do cost. Here, data type should not be short text anymore, right? By default, it's always insert short text for you. This is a lot of mistake that students make also. You always leave it as default, and then when you get to the query relationship, it's not going to work, and you get frustrated. Okay. So you have to make sure you have the right data type for the right field. What should be a data type, guys? Cost should be currency. So we just choose currency. Save it. We can also do the same thing in the datasheet view. Well, I just tell you on part 1 video, I just record that how to create the table from the sheet view.